So here we are for thoracic or spine cars. So as with all of our cars, we want to move through the biggest, comfortable, safe, pain-free range as possible. So listen to your body, avoid any positions or angles that feel pinchy or uncomfortable. Remember, if you do have any closing ankle joint pain, that might mean you want to get that assessed by your favorite healthcare provider, osteopath, chiro, physiotherapist, and make sure that there isn't anything more serious or significant that needs attention in that area. You can still do some cars if you have discomfort. Just make sure that you minimize the contact or the pushing into discomfort sort of pain range of motion. So I'm turning sideways so I can show you how I want to minimize movement of my hips. I am in high kneeling here only because of my camera. You can do this in standing, and in this case we're going to do an upright basic spine cars. So I like to take my hands across my shoulders and kind of almost like give myself a little hug and pull at the same time. So I'm kind of squeezing my elbows towards my trunk as I'm also pulling my hands into my outer shoulders. And this just helps me engage a little bit more into my upper body and into my trunk. At the same time, I'm pressing my knees into the ground, spreading the floor to create that global irradiation, that tension and tone throughout the rest of the system that just increases that sense of importance that the brain has about the movement. It sounds a little bit hokey, but we do know that when we create this global tension, we increase the amount of neuromuscular activity participating, and therefore there's just more, you just get more bang for your buck. Okay, so spine cars. From here, I'm going to keep my hips out of it, so I want to avoid hinging through my hips. This is a really good one to block with a yoga block or a foam roller. Tuck. To do that, you could position a block at the back of your pelvis between you and a wall or a pillar, and you will then feel if your pelvis is moving. You will know because you'll lose the block, or you'll feel that pelvis moving against the block. So a great way to give yourself that feedback. I'm going to do that without today. So from here, I'm going to start. I'm engaged, and I'm going to round my sternum towards my belly button, flexing my spine as much as I can. I'm going to sustain as much flexion as I possibly can as I start to rotate that sternum over the left hip. Once I maximize my rotation, I'm going to start to tip my trunk into left side flexion. And from there, I'm going to rotate back into a little bit of extension, extending, continuing on into straight up extension, keeping my chin and my neck out of it. So I'm just keeping my chin, kind of holding an imaginary softball as I continue into right side flexion. Dropping that sternum over the right hip into rotation, and then I scour back to my start. I'm going to repeat this in the other direction, giving you a front view. So I'm going to flex, drawing my sternum as close to my belly button as I can. I like to imagine that there's a beam of light in my sternum. I'm taking it as close to that space between my knees as possible. From here, I'm scouring the ground, shifting that sternum over the right hip. The beam of light is over that right knee. I start to lift as I come into side flexion. That beam of light is lifting as I come into a little bit of flex or extension. Moving over to left side flexion, rotating over the left hip. That beam of light comes back down towards the floor, and I end in my starting position. So I often like to think about lights to guide kind of the output. So if I had a beam of light in the center of my sternum, I'm trying to make as big of a circle in front of my trunk as possible. And bringing that, as I flex, I'm trying to bring that beam as close to directly down to the floor as I can manage. And as I extend, I'm trying to bring it as high way up the wall or towards the ceiling as I can manage. But be careful, because this movement can quickly become more of this, whereas you really just want to focus on that movement that's available in that spine without the hips driving it. So that's your thoracic cars. I just did one cycle in each direction. I would repeat that at least once more. Keep in mind, pain-free. So if you have any position that is uncomfortable, say extension isn't uncomfortable for me or isn't comfortable, so I might stick with the range that feels available to me. So going just through those positions that are pain-free at this moment. Reminder, if rotational movements aren't sitting well with your spine, go check out the spine segmentation videos, because that might be where you want to focus on building some control and revisit your rotations a little bit later, or revisit those rotational ranges that don't feel so awesome. All right, so thoracic or